What's up, YouTube? How y'all doing, man? Hey, check this out, man. We doing you won't believe what happened next. Good God Almighty. We are Melina Miss King channel. But I wanted to play this, my man. I sent this link to one of my friends, one of my buddies, and they went off on everything. They said, man, where you get so how you doing all this and all this stuff, right? He said, man, that beat, I like the music and the way you talking to the music. The music is hot. And I said, yeah, I did the music too. What you mean you did the music? I run a recording studio, dog. I produce the music also. That's your music? And that you put under your voice? Man, he started going off. I said, yeah. I said, man, I did everything. So for some of y'all, Uncle Mike, I did everything. I did the music. And I'm not bragging. I'm just telling y'all, I just out doing what I like to do. And thank the Lord I'm making money off of it. What in the heck is that scratch right there? Oh, that's just from the lens. That's the glare. That's a glare. Watch this, y'all. Yo, listen up. It's your boy, Uncle Mike. And I just stepped out the courtroom with that heat still burning on my nose. Breaking news, write it down. Brendan Paul, Diddy's right-hand rug mule, is officially flipping. I like them horns. Them horns is like, it's representing triumph. Not danger coming, but a big person is coming. It represents war is about to happen and we are ready, marching, something like that. So music should play on people's imagination. A happy song, you use happy instruments. A dangerous song, danger stranger. So the music should play on people's emotions, and that's key to being a producer. Anyway, what's up, YouTube? Every now and then I just talk too much as usual. Y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, man. Let's see what my man talking about. They were saying my man wasn't in the courtroom that often. Hey, y'all, side note, real talk though. Uncle Mike came back because a lot of people are saying that they don't think that this trial is not all that cracked up to be what people think it is. Even Diddy is embarrassing, like, because Diddy was saying that he thought the whole New York, all his fans would be standing outside, free Diddy, and all this stuff. And it's empty as hell up there. I swear to God, it's empty as hell, y'all. It's probably 3 times emptier than what I anticipated. 3 times at least. I thought it was going to be like New York dropping the ball when I was a kid, because they said that it ain't a lot of people up there like it used to be back in the day. Anyway, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, baby. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Uncle Mike got on the same t-shirt that I had up there, or the same color, because I got like 3 or 4 of each color. You know, here we go.
On Friday, June 13th, day 23 of U.S. versus Sean Combs. The big news of the day, apparently, was the arrival of Kanye West at the trial. He appeared mid-morning in a white jacket and white pants. It caused a lot of consternation. There was a lot of security suddenly in the courthouse. People were told, you know, what they could and couldn't do. He was taken up to the overflow room. He didn't stay long, frankly, but he did show up, and I heard somebody mumbling that he might come back Monday.
Kanye West arrives at the Manhattan courthouse in an all-white outfit, drawing a swarm of people all around him, cameras flashing, trying to capture every moment of him arriving at day 23 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. He's not testifying, though. He just came to sit in an overflow room with Diddy's son, Christian, for 40 minutes, watching the proceedings on a monitor. Why is Kanye, who is already tangled up in his own controversies, publicly backing Diddy, who faces life in prison for sex trafficking and racketeering charges? It makes you wonder why. This day was packed with all types of craziness. A juror who was dismissed. Christian, the same son, was removed from wearing a free Diddy shirt. And a former assistant revealed details about drugs, hotel hookups, and a disturbing video emerged.
Christian, the same son, he had to leave because he had a free Diddy shirt on. Wow. Yeah, I can see how that could. Yeah. We ain't playing them games, man. Not in my courtroom. Nah, get out of here, man. In fact, don't even come back tomorrow. How about that? You want to get a copper attitude? Yeah, that's crazy, man. A free Diddy shirt.
This day was packed with all types of craziness. A juror who was dismissed. Christian, the same son, was removed from wearing a free Diddy shirt. And a former assistant revealed details about drugs, hotel hookups, and a disturbing video emerged. And then there was news that broke out that another key witness, Brendan Paul, is set to testify next week. Over the next few minutes, we're going to discover and go over every detail of the testimony, the text messages, the evidence, and what it all means for Diddy's case. You're going to get a full breakdown of what happened and why it matters. Let's get started. Kanye West arrived at the courthouse at 11:20 a.m. Way later than he should have arrived if he actually wanted to be inside the courtroom, because people are lined up as early, like overnight sometimes, camping out to make sure they get in. Now, although he doesn't need to do that because he's a friend of the family, just think of the hubris of him arriving that late to the courthouse, and he knows that this is going to create a spectacle. He knows all eyes are going to be on him. He doesn't enter quietly. He doesn't go in with the family. He doesn't, dress in a way to kind of keep eyes off of him. He is clearly there for attention, not just to support the family, as he keeps claiming. It's just bizarre, but we have grown to expect this type of thing from Kanye West. And can we talk about how this white outfit looks like he was dressed to go to one of Diddy's freak-off parties? One of his all-white parties that he's hosted in LA in the Hamptons. Like, how more tone-deaf can you be? I had one person comment yesterday that he was dressed up like those white fingernails he wanted women's nails to be painted as. Like, with him already, been implicated, many people believe that he is the iconic rapper that could not be named in court. Prosecutors wanted his name to be kept out of the actual proceedings. Even though there was testimony about him, they didn't want him named. But the defense wanted him named. So much so that they petitioned the judge for his name to be out there. And court was delayed about 40 minutes that morning so that they could all have an ex parte meeting in the judge's robing room, his chambers, to discuss this whole thing. Now, when his attorneys and the prosecutors and all of them came back out from discussing naming the rapper, with the judge, his defense attorneys walked over to him, told him, I guess, what happened, and then he put his head in his hands. Now, some are saying it was because he's sick. He doesn't feel well, which I've heard that from multiple reports that he's kind of sick. But you're going to tell me after his attorneys talk to him, right after this, and the rapper can't be named, he hangs his head, he puts his head down? Like, really, let's be serious here. So they were fighting for about 2 days to get that name in there. Then suddenly, the day before, on day 22, Kanye and his wife Bianca showed up at the end of court trying to get in. Then yesterday, when they were fighting again for it, he suddenly does show up, and at a perfect time to draw all eyes on him and for press to swarm him. He knew what he was doing. I personally believe that this was done so that he could get his name in there, that Diddy wants his name, so he's helping his buddy out so that people know it actually is him. Because there was a lot of speculation on when Jane Doe testified about flying on a private jet with this iconic rapper and his wife and their entourage, and then they to Vegas in January of 2024 when Jane Doe and Diddy were broken up. Then when she flew there with them, and then they ended up watching Anton, a male escort that Jane Doe and Diddy had used for their freak-offs, having sex with a woman at a hotel room, and that this rapper and his entourage were all around. and that the rapper, and they were watching Anton, this male sex worker, having sex with this other woman. Jane Doe flashes her breast. They're all partying. And then the rapper tells her, I've always had a crush on you. And I, asking her about freakoffs, and can you refer a male escort, to us so that, because we're part of a lifestyle. It was just bizarre. So this rapper wasn't named. Some people were thinking it was Jay-Z and Beyonce. Some people think Rick Ross, although Rick Ross is not married. They thought could be DJ Khaled. Okay, he is married. Some also said it could be The Game, but The Game is not married. Okay, I think he just had another baby with a baby mama, Evelyn Lozado from Basketball Wives. Her daughter had a baby with The Game. Like, it is a cluster. So people were trying to figure out who could it be, but obviously, I believe that it is Kanye West. It has to be Kanye West, because when you think about the whole dynamic of what happened and him coming to court, but then also receipts show that in January of 2024, Kanye and Bianca were in Las Vegas at that exact time. So,
speaking of The Game, did y'all hear that The Game had to sell his house, $7 million house, to settle a lawsuit? The judge is making him sell the house because he was in a situation. He was supposed to be some type of game. It's a reality show where he actually, some girl, just like that Flavor Flav, the girl's supposed to want to try to date him and try to impress him. And he took one of the girls out to a club, and then he started ironing her and started doing some negative things to her. And then he didn't even show up for court and all this stupid stuff. And the judge found him guilty and said, you got to pay this person $7 million, all this type of stuff. And he never paid. F you ain't the court system, I ain't paying y'all nothing. So now the court is actually ordering him to actually sell his $7 million house, or sell his house for $7 million. I don't know if it's worth $7 million, so he can pay the girl who won the case. Did y'all hear about that? Or this new news for y'all? Uncle Mike, I couldn't believe it, man. Anyway, my bad. Let's get back.
Could it be? But obviously, I believe that it is Kanye West. It has to be Kanye West, because when you think about the whole dynamic of what happened and him coming to court, but then also receipts show that in January of 2024, Kanye and Bianca were in Las Vegas at that exact time. So, of course, the receipts have clarified to us clearly it was him. I'm not understanding why this is so important at all, why they're pressed for him to be named. I just don't get the mechanics of this. I don't get what Kanye is trying to do other than draw attention to himself. I don't think he's there just to support. Okay, I think there is something deeper going on that we're just not privy to. Now, once there, he nodded when asked if he was there to support Diddy. Then he ended up entering through a security door with Christian King Combs, Diddy's 27-year-old son, and some other person, Charluki Finney or something. I don't know. It's one of Diddy's associates. But Kanye was not approved to enter Judge Aaron Sabramia's courtroom on the 26th floor. So court staff directed him to an overflow room on the 23rd floor. He sat there with Christian and Finney, watching the trial on a closed circuit feed for 30 to 40 minutes before leaving for lunch with Diddy's group. Now, he wasn't in the actual overflow room, guys. This is important for me to say. Because people were waiting for him to show up in there, but he never did. Instead, it's believed he was actually in the defense attorney's room. Like they have separate rooms for the defense and the prosecution, so they can meet with their clients and meet with witnesses, that type of thing. So it's believed that on a closed circuit TV, they were in there with Christian and the other guy watching this, and then they all get up and go to lunch. So then you can even see Kanye West exiting, and it was just a weird interaction, the whole thing. Now, sources indicate that Diddy's team arranged Kanye's appearance to influence public perception, as I told you. Diddy faces those 5 charges: 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. There's also in there that another account, which nobody's really talked about, with him trying to I'm not going to say it right, but because I'm thinking of it on the top of my head with like witness interference or witness intimidation, something about a witness tampering, whatever way you want to spin it. So he's facing a slew of things, and him doing these type of stunts after he's actually gotten in trouble in court for trying to influence the jury by nodding, and the judge has admonished him multiple times and warned him that there are going to be consequences. Either I'm going to remove you from this court for the rest of the proceedings, or I'm going to give instruction to the jury. Now, we don't know if that's going to be instruction in the courtroom right now that could hurt Diddy's case, or is it going to be instruction to the jury once they go back for deliberation? Either way, it's not good for him. So for this to happen and to cause such a ruckus, the only thing that this scene that could possibly help him is that it in the court of public opinion, but not in the actual courtroom. Because remember, the jury has no idea any of this stuff is taking place. When they are in the courtroom, that is the only thing that they are seeing as related to this case, if they're not looking it up privately on their own. Okay. So, but those are the only things that they're able to see. So Kanye coming, the only thing that did was have people in the public ask questions, and nobody thinks that this was a great idea. Nobody sees this as Diddy having someone stand up for him, another rapper stand up for him. Because if you don't know, a new lawsuit has dropped against Diddy, and also Kanye is in there. So is this to distract from the lawsuit as well that Kanye has coming out for another woman talking about she was violated by both Diddy and Kanye? I haven't gotten to the weeds or the details of this lawsuit, but I will be covering that on this channel. So guys, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell, because you're not going to want to miss any of the tea that I have coming out. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Diddy released a song in March titled "Lonely Roads Still Go to Sunshine." It features Christian King Combs, his son, and a jail call from Diddy. And Kanye is actually on this album, on this song that came out. So what is really going on with Kanye and Diddy? Both are bogged down, marred with all of this controversy. Sure, Kanye doesn't have any court cases going on, but if you've seen his antics on social media and the things that have been going on, like, the guy is just cooked in public opinion. Even people who have been longtime fans of his. There's things that he's been talking about and doing that have turned even his most diehard fans against him. Now, he could probably just drop a new album and all will be forgotten, especially if it's a good one. But still, the point remains. Why are they so intertwined? Why have they come together in this kind of incestuous, weirdo situation, weirdo vibe to defend? I mean, Diddy's not defending Kanye, but Kanye is defending him. And they've had beef, like, to the point where even Kanye at one point was, he put out his tweets or X posts, I don't know what you call them now, where he talked about how he showed a text message thread between him and Diddy, and he was saying that Diddy was a Fed and he was trying to get him arrested. Now, granted, that was a couple years back, but and Kanye, likes to reveal these types of things, especially when he's going into one of his manic episodes on social media. But regardless, I just didn't see them two coming together for anything. But it looks like they're trying to protect each other. Does Diddy have tapes on Kanye and these freak-offs? There's more that he knows. And like I said, that lawsuit throws another wrench into this entire situation. And sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there. Kanye released that song, okay? But then Christian Combs is on it, Diddy's son, and Diddy is on there from a jail call. So Kanye is really going out of his way to help Diddy, to promote this family, and to do a song, a collaboration while Diddy is in jail. Sure, other rappers have done that, but right during the trial, I've never seen this before. And especially how most of the public sees Diddy. We don't need more of a spectacle than what is already coming out of this courtroom. The details of these freak-offs are absolutely grotesque. And then you add this on, why are you associating with this man? Kanye, who once called himself a Christian, did a Christian album. I mean, he's completely fallen off that wagon. I think that was just in a moment he was feeling I don't know, he was having another manic episode, and that's where he was at that point. But now he's, with Bianca and all the sexual stuff, her walking out naked, just the craziness that has been going on with him. I don't know. Some people are still giving Kanye a pass. To me, all of this screams narcissism. All of this screams delusion. All of this screams, we are above the law. So while Kanye doesn't have any type of federal crimes, or he's not on trial for anything, his issues include lawsuits alleging inappropriate conduct with his employees. And there is a public backlash over his anti-Semitic comments that he's made multiple times. So that again makes his support controversial. People online are saying things like Kanye after attention, but couldn't even get into the courtroom. They're seeing it as a publicity stunt. And they're even saying that there's even people saying that, like, Kanye, you chose the wrong guy to try to help bolster your image or try to clean up your image. And I 100% agree. Now, getting back to Jane Doe, who is Diddy's former partner, and she testified anonymously and referenced all of those freak-offs involving one in particular, like I said, with this prominent rapper and his wife. A lot of people believe that this Jane Doe is actually 50 Cent's baby mother. I'm not doxing her. I'm just saying what my opinion is based on the evidence, based on the things she said. And I even posted a video yesterday of her back in LA. Like, it is the most deranged thing. If you haven't seen it, I'll make sure I link that video at the end of this one, like kind of one of the end cards on the screen. Now, besides that freak off story that was about Las Vegas in January of 2024, Jane Doe also said allegedly that Diddy and Kanye exchanged their favorite sex workers, implying that a shared involvement in similar activities. A 2010 tweet from Kanye said, "Do you even love your girl if you don't smack her sometimes?" That has resurfaced now, and it's raising questions about his motives. Kanye's visit, it may reflect loyalty or an attempt to shield himself from scrutiny, but it has drawn so much attention to his connection to Diddy instead. People are now digging back through the archives. In fact, I'm going to do a whole video about their whole history, their connections, the tweets that I've mentioned, the lawsuits that have come out against Kanye, and all of the things that he and Diddy have done throughout the years in one video, so we can see it all and really get a picture of what's going on with their relationship and how does it tie into this case. So let's talk about juror number 6 now. One of 4 Black jurors who was removed from the trial following a dispute from the prosecution and the defense attorneys. So during jury selection in early May, he stated that he lived in the Bronx with his aunt. Later in a conversation with court staff, he said he primarily resided in New Jersey with his girlfriend and a newborn daughter. When questioned about that, he gave conflicting answers, claiming he had recently moved and was only visiting or spent 4 to 5 days a week in New Jersey, but lived in New York. Prosecutors, led by Maureen Comey, argued that inconsistency demonstrated a lack of candor, suggesting that he might have withheld information in order to remain on the jury. They requested that he be dismissed from the case, citing potential risks to the trial's integrity. But Diddy's attorneys, like Mark Agnifilo and Xavier Donaldson, they opposed the move, arguing it was an attempt to remove a Black juror because of his race. They noted that the Southern District of New York has low Black and Hispanic juror participation, with only about 15% of those who are summoned, of the jury summoned, being Black, despite Manhattan's diverse population. Now, this could factor into a lot of things. It doesn't mean that they are purposely keeping out Black or Hispanic jurors. One thing to know is that Black and Hispanic jurors are much less likely to answer for jury duty. Okay, I forget what the numbers are, but it's pretty big. So it is difficult for them to actually get in a diverse jury because Black and Hispanic people, they're like, I don't want to do jury duty. I got to work or whatever they have going on. This is not something, this is an ongoing problem, not just in this case with Diddy, but in all of the cases that come out of the Southern District of New York. So the defense contended that the jurors' answers reflect.
My bad, y'all. Let's keep it moving, man. Sometimes I got to answer my friends, You know how that go. You got to talk to your friends sometimes.
This is an ongoing problem, not just in this case with Diddy, but in all of the cases that come out of the Southern District of New York. So the defense contended that the jurors' answers reflected a complex living situation, not deception, and his removal would reduce the jury diversity. Donaldson described it as a setback for representation in a case with racial implications. I don't really see the racial implications, maybe people outside the court, the public, but not in the case. But the judge, after reviewing the voir dire and the robing room transcripts, found that the jurors' shifting responses, like the Bronx versus New Jersey, indicated an intent to stay on the jury. He ordered an alternate to replace him starting Monday. He actually said for him not to even show up on Monday, but he would possibly reconsider it over the weekend. I think this dismissal highlighted the tensions in the trial. The defense's claim of racial bias was rejected by the judge, who stated there was no basis for it. It remains unclear whether the jurors' inconsistencies stem from a disorganized lifestyle or a specific motive, such as interest in this high-profile case. But the decision underscored the scrutiny applied to the jury selection. Now, Christian Combs, Diddy's son, was removed from the courtroom after wearing a t-shirt with "Free Diddy" printed in large letters across the front. He was seated in the front row, directly visible to the jury, violating federal rules under Rule 24C that prohibit attempts to influence jurors. Prosecutors immediately raised the issue, and the judge ordered Christian's removal, warning that further incidents could lead to restrictions on spectators. Christian has publicly supported his father, posting on social media that the charges are a witch hunt and promoting Diddy's innocence. It is his father, after all. But however, wearing the shirt in court was a misstep that drew attention to the defense's efforts to sway perceptions, potentially harming their case. And like I told you before, Diddy has already gotten in trouble several times for nodding to the jury, being visibly nodding multiple times. When Jane Doe was testifying, he was nodding during parts of that. It's just a weird look to do that. And once you tie in Kanye West coming to court, then their song together, it could look like they are trying to influence this jury, even if it's just innocently trying to, help his father out. It's just, he's a grown man. He should know better than this. And the defense had to know he should not have been wearing that. Now, maybe they tried to tell him not to do it, but Diddy said he wants his son to wear it, or maybe Christian is just as hard-headed as his father, has an ego the size of his father. And it's like, I'm going to do it regardless of what people have to say about it. So either way, it was just a dumb move to make. Okay, so we can finally get to the witness testimony. Jonathan Perez, Diddy's personal assistant from December of 2021 to September of 2024, testified under an immunity agreement, requiring him to answer all questions. His testimony provided details about King Nights, Diddy's term for the private hotel encounters with the different women, including Jane Doe, who is a central witness who testified for 6 days about the alleged abuse and trafficking. Now, these hotel nights are actually freak-offs, okay? King nights are freak-offs. The hotel nights are freak-offs. So everyone has a different term for it, but just understand these are the exact same things. There's no difference in what we're talking about here. Perez describes setting up the hotel rooms with red color changing LED lights that he either purchased from Target, Walmart, or Amazon for about $20 to $50 each. He stocked the rooms with something called Vital Honey. Now, this is a libido enhancer that was flagged by the FDA in 2022 for containing the same active ingredients in Cialis, the male enhancer. And he bought those for about $15 a pack. He also went to adult stores to buy massage oils, sex toys, lingerie, all types of things for these freak-offs. And he ended up spending about $100 to $300 every single time he would go to the adult store. Now, after these encounters, he cleaned up the rooms because they were left in disarray. We've heard about it. The bedding had to be removed. The towels would be wet. There would be baby oil everywhere. There will also be blood and urine and, Astroglide, which seems to be Diddy's favorite lubricant during these freak-offs, besides the baby oil. And keep in mind, we have heard testimony from Cassie and Jane Doe that there will be at least over a dozen, bare minimum, Okay, 24 bottles of baby oil used for every single freak off. So you can imagine the condition the room was in. Besides the blood that would come, because sometimes they had to do it on their period or they would start bleeding from 24 hours straight of having sex. But then there would also be vomit. And then we know about the urinating on the woman, during the freak off. The male escort would urinate on her. Diddy would urinate on her. And not just on her, but in her mouth. I mean, it was just disgusting, the entire thing. But he was one of the people that would help clean it up before the actual cleaning people from the hotel got there, because the rooms would be absolutely destroyed. He would then also arrange for meals to come after the freak offs, like avocado toast or sushi. And that would be about $50 to $100. And then also he would get the IV drips for Diddy and whatever woman was there. And they would have to get a nurse to come in or some type of company to come in, bring the IVs. And that could go up into the thousands, depending on how much of the IV that would be needed after these marathon freak off sessions, which would take days to recover from. This is what Cassie testified to. Jane Doe testified to it as well. Because remember, these freak offs would last anywhere from 24 hours to 4 days. And sometimes it will be 24 hours, one session, because they will have multiple sessions in the same freak off during these days. That the 24-hour session, it will be sex nonstop with no breaks. How is that possible? I need someone to help me understand physically how anyone could do this. None of this makes sense. Like, why would you want to do it? Why would you want to see it? Why would this turn you on? It's disgusting. It has to hurt. Like the woman especially, which they talked about having sores in their mouth, and they would have all types of infections, to the point where Cassie even said the antibiotics for her infections stopped working on her body. So that gives you an idea of how nasty this place was and how taxing on the body, how detrimental to the body that these things were that they were for a woman. I'm getting a little tongue tied because there's a lot to unpack here, but also every time I think about the details of these freak offs, I just want to crawl out my skin. Who is doing this? Is deranged. This is insanity. Everyone in this entire situation, this isn't just, I was mixed up or I had this, that, like something is wrong with you mentally on a deep, deep level that you would even engage in this filth, in this disgusting behavior, and knowing how much it would burn and it would hurt, which is what they testified to. Why? None of this was worth it. Like even Jane Doe, she's getting $10,000 a month in rent. She's only gotten $150,000 from Diddy over 3 years. She was making more than that just doing Instagram posts. What is so special that you need to be with Diddy? And he's not even giving you money while he's taking other women on trips. He's buying other women gifts and bigger things than you. And you're hidden in the corner, essentially saying you said you were a sex worker and you were just a whore and a hoe for $10,000 a month in rent. Like, make it make sense to me, guys. I don't understand. Now, TriStar was mentioned, and that's managed by Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill. And they handled Diddy's finances, and they have connections to the Britney Spears conservatorship. Now, a text from another assistant to Perez read, "Locate his Gucci pouch in his bathroom. Stuff it back in, LOL." And then he responded, "Zipped it up, no residue, didn't steal any Addy." So the Addy was referring to Adderall. On June 18, 2024, Perez dropped Diddy at a Los Angeles home with a duffel bag containing oils, the honey, and condoms. Hours later, Diddy FaceTimed him, appearing angry and annoyed, insisting that Perez confirm no other women were on a recent Wyoming trip. Now, Jane's back was to the camera, preventing Perez from seeing her face during this FaceTime call. But he texted KK and Fahim, "Heads up, he and guests are fighting, picking him up." Jane testified this was the night Diddy first struck her, causing the bruises. But she actually hit him first. She actually put his head into a marble counter that day. And I believe this is the same time where he was breaking down doors to get to her. She ran out and hid. She ran 6 blocks, hid for 2 hours. Then she came back. Diddy was still there. Then they called Anton, the same guy, Anton, the male escort, who was with Jane Doe in January 2024 on that Vegas trip with the iconic rapper Kanye. And so they called him over to do another freak off after this fight. She drives to her community's gate, goes and gets him, brings him back. And instead of doing a full freak off, she ends up just giving him oral. Okay. And then I guess that was like the freak off that they were doing. It was weird. But she thought this would appease Diddy and make him not so upset with her, but he was still angry during that whole thing. There's just a lot. Like I said, I told you guys, I am buying the transcripts. They should be here on Monday, and I will be reading through the transcripts over on my Patreon. These cost $8.07 per page of transcript. So, and there's a lot of things I cannot say on YouTube. So they will be going over on my Patreon. I don't know how many pages it's going to total. They're going to give me the exact amount once it's all readied and bundled, and they're going to email them to me. But I'm afraid of what that bill is going to be. So I have to put them on my Patreon. We're going to do a live stream where I go through the details, because like I said, a lot of this just feels like out of order or out of context, or not getting enough information to understand what the hell they're talking about. Especially, I love Matthew Russell Lee of Inner City Press, but he's missing a lot of details. Things are not there, or they're not in the right order. So we need to know exactly what is being said in court. And so if you're interested in that, make sure you check out the link in the description box below for my Patreon. Now let's continue with this mess. So later that same day, okay, Perez delivered $3,500 in cash to Jane, stating he was unaware of what the purpose was. A group text with Diddy and Fahim read, "I need cash for his guest ASAP." Now, Jane described the payment as some type of hush money. During cross-examination, Brian still minimized Perez's role in the whole thing, noting these tasks were personal, not business, and comprised only 1% of his duties, which primarily involved travel, meetings, and studio coordination. Steele portrayed Jane as a strong and independent woman, citing texts where she discussed outfits and requested hot tea with a heart emoji, appearing comfortable with the whole situation. Again, they're hammering this was all consensual. She was not coerced. Perez agreed, describing Jane as nice and noting she trusted his fashion choices, such as a $200 dress from Revolve that he had gotten her. That, I don't know, it's weird. He ended up leaving his job to avoid situations like this. This is what he described, and expressed that he still had a lot of respect for Diddy, despite all of the things that went on and the things that he had to do. And he didn't want to be in these uncomfortable situations with, these women and the freak offs, and then Diddy upset, and the violence that would go on in these relationships. Even though all of that is what made him leave his job, he still really respected Diddy and liked working for him. He even said that Diddy was a motivator. Jane Doe said the same thing, that he really knew how to motivate people. The testimony, I think, it supports the prosecution's depiction of a controlled operation, but it allows the defense to argue that Jane's participation was consensual, which is what Perez said. He said she was always happy. Now, there's an iPad video that Perez testified about finding in 2023, and it was about a $1,200 iPad Pro that was left at Diddy's LA mansion, where a lot of times, this is where Perez would work out of. So Diddy would his music studio was at his home. A lot of his staff that personally worked with him, not just all of Combs Enterprises, they would work out of his home. And so he ended up finding this iPad, and so this is where the lines get blurry, and they were trying to hammer in, okay, like when you would get drugs for Diddy, was that personal or was it business? Because you have to keep in mind what the case is about. Okay, this RICO statute. It's talking about how they're trying to tie any criminal activity to his actual businesses, Combs Enterprises. And if any of the money or the staff, people who were paid by the company, were engaged in illegal activity under the, the command or the control of Diddy. So if they're able to tie, him buying drugs, right? He's paid by the company, right? He's paid by Combs Enterprises. That's where he gets his paycheck. But then he's doing personal things for Diddy, like going out and buying drugs. And if money from the company was used to buy the drugs, right? If he's going to do that, and then his paycheck is coming from the company, at that point, that proves the prosecution's case that Combs Enterprise and its agents and employees were engaged in illegal activity under the control of Diddy, that he had his employees from his company doing illegal things. That's all they need to prove this entire case. It doesn't matter if what you think about the victims. It doesn't matter if you think it was consensual, if you think that they were gold diggers or were there because they wanted to. You can argue that back and forth, but if you want to tie some of the statutes that they have to meet, the burden of proof on the prosecution, to Diddy and his actual Combs Enterprises, they're doing it with his former employees, because we may see it as, oh, that's personal and that's business. If that employee is being paid by Diddy through his company, it is all business. And having an employee do illegal things while you're paying them through your business, that is a surefire way to have your entire business seized, your funds seized, and everything else. And this is why Diddy is in so much trouble financially, outside of all of the lawsuits he has going on. Okay, getting back to the iPad. There was a videographer, Brandon, who discovered the video on the iPad and showed it to Perez. And he said that it depicted Jane having sex with another man while Diddy was watching, likely from the freakoffs. Perez viewed it in an office, then informed Diddy, who appeared surprised. He then reported it to KK, who was upset that he didn't come to her first, instructing, bring things like that to me, not Diddy. So going back to January of 2024, KK told Perez an outsider had inquired about that video and recorded a conversation with him to identify who had seen it. So KK recorded this call with Perez. The audio, which was presented to the jury, featured KK questioning Perez, saying both times the only person at the house who knew about it was you. Perez says Brandon found it, possibly with Gio, a sound engineer, and Chef K was present as well. But he omitted Chef K in order to minimize the trouble that he was in. He noted that Rob, a security guard, was aware but refused to view it. Perez suggested an investigation, citing Diddy's concern that his phone data might be compromised, possibly hacked or leaked. When asked why he didn't delete the video, he said it wasn't his responsibility and he didn't want anything to do with it. Now, the video is significant for the prosecution's claim that Diddy recorded freakoffs to exert control over his victims. Its presence on a shared iPad raises questions about security protocols. The outsider's inquiry and KK's reaction, Christina Courtroom, it suggests efforts to contain any type of leaks of these things. Now, the jury may consider whether this was an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern of recording encounters. We don't know at this point, but we do know about the recordings and the blackmail tapes. We heard all about that, not just from Cassie, but also Cassie's mother. Now, prosecutors also raised concern about Diddy's conduct in court. Several people have said they've observed Diddy turning to his family during different parts of the case and mouthing words, gesturing with his hands to different people in the courtroom. The specific words weren't, we don't know what he actually said, but this is an issue for the prosecution. As I told you, Diddy's behavior is getting him in hot water. Not only just nodding with the jury, nodding when Jane Doe was giving her testimony, but he's being a distraction to the point, all eyes are on him. So he's turning around, mouthing things with his words. Mouthing words with his family to people behind him, looking at people. Even Stephanie Sue, who is a huge Mango Rotten. She has a huge channel on YouTube. She used to do mukbangs, but now she does Rotten Mango. She does like stories and cases and trials. And she's been covering the Diddy trial. And it was reported that he turned to her and said, I know you. So he's doing different weird things like this, drawing attention to himself and possibly the anger of the judge. Now, still defended Diddy, asserting that he had been nothing but professional. But the judge, he acknowledged that he could not monitor every action that Diddy did, but advised him to refrain from such behavior, referencing the prior warnings for nodding to the jury that I told you about. Now, on June 6th, the judge had cautioned Diddy about, like I said, the similar actions, citing the federal rules, the same one, Rule 24C, that had his son removed for having anything that communicates with the jury. I do not understand why the defense is not locking down their client, locking down his family, and having them stop all of these shenanigans in court. Now, next was Special Agent Andre Lamont. He is from Homeland Security Investigations, their human trafficking unit. He testified about the March 25th, 2024 raid on Diddy's Los Angeles mansion at 200 South Mapleton Drive. The evidence, it included 6 firearms, 3 AR-15 rifles, a Smith & Wesson rifle, and a Mossberg shotgun, and a Glock 19 pistol, some with the serial numbers, scraped off, sanded down. And he said it looked like it didn't come from when the serial numbers been taken off. Sometimes I guess you can do it with a screwdriver, but he said this looked like they actually used a tool, like it was professional having these serial numbers taken off of these weapons. They also found a 60-round drum magazine containing 59 green tip rounds designed to penetrate armor. There were 6 manila envelopes of ketamine, one labeled with a shamrock. There was also a plaid bag with MDMA. 200 bottles of Johnson & Johnson baby oil, and 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant. The lubricant was stored in 24 cardboard boxes in a garage. Now, there's photographs that showed the baby oil in the bathrooms and drawers and bookcases all over the place. Each bottle is valued about $10 to $15. So that told us about $2,000 to $3,000. I'm only bringing this up because they brought it up in court, how much baby oil costs, in case any of you are interested in the cost of baby oil at this current moment. Yeah. So during this cross-examination, Agnifilo elicited from Lamont, the special agent, that the firearms were secured in a locked security room and in a safe, not scattered or in a children's bedroom, and that they were likely used by Diddy's 10-person security team, which cost him anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a month. Now, Lamont noted that he had not encountered the bulk lubricant in 50 to 60 prior raids that he had done. He had never encountered what he found in the raid on Diddy's house. The defense, they're seeking, I think, present the firearms and the lubricant as legitimate. But the quantity of the lubricant and the presence of the illegal drugs with the firearms, that challenges this narrative. The prosecution links these items to the freakoffs. All right, guys, where they used all of the drugs, and they would be pink cocaine, MDMA, ketamine, ecstasy, Molly, like everything you could think of. And that was part of the coercion. And with the firearms defaced and the armor piercing ammunition, that is raising other concerns. Like, why would he need armor piercing casings? Why would he need these things? So, I mean, they're all found in the house. They weren't necessarily found together. So I think this is kind of loosely tying something together because, you know, Diddy is not really under trial, or this case isn't about him harming someone with a gun or a firearm. Although there's stories from the decades that are decades long about Diddy and firearms and all of that. But in this particular case, I think it's a stretch to tie the guns directly to the freak-offs, especially since no witness has talked about these guns being used at a freak-off or Diddy holding it or threatening them with a gun. Day 23 didn't have a whole lot. It was more about the antics around the courtroom, but the prosecutors announced that Brendan Paul, a former assistant to Diddy, is scheduled to testify before the prosecution rests his case next week. And they're supposed to wrap up by, I believe, June 20th. Now, Paul was arrested on March 25th of 2024 at Miami Opa-locka Airport during simultaneous raids on Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami residences. He was found with cocaine and marijuana candy in his luggage, and he was facing up to 15 years for the drug possession with intent to distribute. And keep in mind, he was getting on a plane to fly out of the country. He was getting on Diddy's plane to fly out of the country when he was arrested and found with the drugs. So in April of 2024, Paul accepted a plea deal from the government and entering a drug rehabilitation program prior to any type of incarceration. So there's speculation that he might be cooperating with prosecutors. Paul is described as Diddy's drug mule, responsible for transporting substances similar to those found in the Gucci pouch and all of the drugs that have been found in this case with Diddy, not just the ones that Perez testified about in this Gucci pouch. Okay. So Jane testified also that Paul delivered cash and drugs for the freak-offs, including a 2022 instance where he provided $2,000 and ketamine before a hotel encounter. Text messages presented in court showed Paul messaging Jane. He said this, "Got the stuff. Where you at?" The prosecution alleges that Paul was integral into Diddy's operation, facilitating the drug and cash distributions to maintain compliance among the women. His testimony could reinforce Perez and Jane's accounts of the drug use and the coercion. And that is absolutely going to help the prosecution. But I have to note, the defense argued that Paul was a minor player, not some trafficker orchestrating these big drug operations. And they suggested that his plea deal undermines his credibility, claiming he might just say anything to avoid jail. However, Paul's arrest during the raids that uncovered the firearms and the drugs, that lends weight to his potential testimony. Like you cannot deny that he was found with drugs getting on Diddy's plane while simultaneous raids were going on in LA and Miami at Diddy's homes. Like, the guy has a strong connection to this. So they can argue what they want, but I don't see how they're going to get out of this. Sure, the guy's motives could be, to get himself out of trouble, which I'm thinking that it is. But that's how these things go. Just because someone has a plea deal doesn't mean they don't have the truth. It doesn't mean that they're lying. Doesn't mean that they don't have information that could potentially potentially hurt the defendant. So this day, like I told you, was a cluster. I'm sorry if this was all over the place. I'm stumbling on my words. I'm trying to recount all of this information. I have notes, but then I'm remembering other things and I'm trying to bring new things in. But I think you guys get the idea that, this thing has turned into a circus. There's a lot going on in and out the courtroom. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this whole day? Like with Kanye, him showing up, Christian Combs with the shirt, the song that they have together. I don't think the HSI agent really added much, at least not for me. I mean, you want to see what was found in the raid, but it didn't really do much. But I think, Perez, another assistant of Diddy, testifying about being involved in the drugs and the freakoffs and paying people off. I think it raises eyebrows, but I don't know. I could be reading too much into it, but make sure you guys are subscribed. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Hit the notification bell. And when you hit it, make sure it says all, because I have a lot that's coming out. And if you're interested in what we have going on over on Patreon, like I said, I'm getting these transcripts so we can go line by line. I can stop being confused about these testimonies, because some of it just doesn't make sense to me. If you're interested in hearing that and seeing that, make sure you check out the link below in the description box for my Patreon. And until then, I will see you guys really soon.
Wow. Man, she got a lot going on. She has a whole lot going on. Look here, man. I'm going to get on up out of here. Man. Diddy, you in trouble, man. I can't see how people say that Diddy may get off or he's winning and all this type of stuff. It's crazy, man. So y'all let me know what y'all think, man. I'm going to get on up out of here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.